Okay, grade 6 as promised. Here's the video, guided practice. And this is on page 50. So go math. And page 50. Right? So go math, page 50. All right, so we're looking on, let's look at number 1. All right, what's number 1 asking you to do? Number 1 says that Sarah and her 4 friends are decorating picture frames with ribbon. They have 4 rolls of ribbon to share evenly. How does this situation represent division? So you got 4 rolls for, so you got 4 rolls for 5 people, all right? So 4 rolls for 5 people. Why are there 5 people? Because you have Sarah and her 4 friends. So that's 4 plus 1 is 5 people. And the question asks you, how does this situation represent division? Well, the situation represents division because you want to have 4 rolls. And you want to divide that by 5 people. This would make sense. All right, so 4 rolls divided by 5 people would give you 4 over 5. That's what 4 divided by 5 means. It's the fraction 4 over 5 rolls, right? Or 4 over 5 roll, singular. 4 over 5 roll per person. All right. So you have 4 over 5 rolls per person because you have 4 rolls for 5 people. So obviously you're going to have less than 1 roll per person. All right. So that's what that problem is asking you to do. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so we're going to be looking at the second problem. How much does each person receive? So basically, I just did the first problem and the second problem together. Okay, so we're working on 1B. And the question is, how much does each person receive? Well, obviously, we just did that already. Sorry, I did that problem for you. So 4 over 5 roll. Okay, so 4/5 of a roll, that's what they received based on the work that we just did a while ago. Okay, so look at the previous position in the video. Okay, so now we are doing problem 2. Problem 2 asks you to write numbers in the form A over B. So think of it, A over B is equal to, in this case, 0.7. That's what they want, right? But we know that if A over B is 0.7, then we can write that as 0.7 over 1. So A over B is 0.7 over 1. So far, so good? We know that it's 7/10. But let's suppose you didn't know it was 7/10. Then you could actually just multiply the top by 10 and the bottom by 10. All right, just to make an equivalent fraction. And we know that when you multiply by 10, you move the decimal point 1 place over to the right. So something we did last year. That's going to be 7 over 10. So the answer is 7 over 10. All right? So 7/10 can be written in two ways. It can be written as 0.7 or 7 over 10. And that is the same rational number. They represent the same rational number in words, 7/10. Okay, so in words we say 7/10. So 7/10 is equal to 7/10 is equal to 0.7, or you can also write it as 7 over 10. Okay, so this is 7 over 10, which is now in the form of a fraction. And that's what they wanted. Got it? 7 over 10 is a fraction. All right. All right, so now let's look at negative 29. So these you should know, all right? So I'm going to put a similar problem. So similar problem to this would just be, say, negative 17. Written as a fraction, negative 17 would just be negative 17 over 1. You got that? So that's how you write a rational number as a fraction. Sometimes, if the rational number is an integer, all you need to do is just write negative 17 over 1 in this case. If we were negative 15, it would be negative 15 over 1. So obviously, you should know what negative 29 would be. So negative 29 is going to be, that's your term. So what would negative 29 be? Same property. Okay? So negative 29 would give us some fraction using a similar problem. All right? And let's look at 8 1/3. All right, so for number 4, they ask us to write 8 1/3 as a rational number. It's already a rational number, but they want us to write it in as a proper fraction. They want us to write it as a proper fraction. So a over b in that form. Okay, that's what they want, a over b. So I'm not going to use this, obviously. I'm not going to use that example because I'm going to give you the answer if I do that. So instead, let's use, for number 4, still on number 4, let's use a similar problem. So for number 4, a similar problem would be, I can say 5 1/7. Okay? How do I change this into an improper fraction? Well, I take the 5 and the 7 and multiply them. So I'm going to get 5 times 7 is equal to 35, right? And then I'm going to add the 1. Okay? So I'm going to have 35 plus the 1, which is equal to 36. So let's go over it. Again, you got to multiply the denominator by the whole number part. So 7 times 5 or 5 times 7 is 35. Then you add the numerator. So 35 plus 1 is 36. And so your fraction, in this case, your fraction is just going to be 36 over 7. So they want that to have the form some whole number over some whole number. Okay? So that's your a over b in this case. Now, if you know this, right, then you can go back to the problem and you should know how to find 8 1/3. You should know how to find 8 1/3 as an improper fraction. Okay? Got it? So use the same example. Use the similar problem that I did. Use that same process and find what 8 1/3 is. Okay? All right. And for the Venn diagram, all they need to need to do is to know what integers are, yeah, and what rational numbers are. So, similar problem. So, for number 5, I can say use negative 11. Obviously, negative 11 is an integer. So negative 11 is an integer. Is negative 11 a whole number? No. So it's not a whole number. So it's an integer, but it's not a whole number. Is negative 11 a rational number? Yes. Negative 11 is rational. It's an integer, it's not a whole number, but it's rational. Negative 11 is irrational simply because I can also write negative 11 as negative 11 over 1, the ratio of two integers. So therefore it's rational. So negative 11 is rational and it's an integer. Negative 11 is an integer and it's also rational. So now your question was to find out what negative 15 is. So negative 15, describe negative 15. Which of these 3 categories do you use? Look what I did with negative 11. You should know what to do with negative 15. Okay, now let's move on to number 6. So number 6. Again, number 6 is asking you to find out what 5 and 10 11th is. What kind of numbers can you use to describe that? So if I use 5 and 10 over 11, is this a whole number? Is it an integer? Can you change this to make it into some form of a fraction? Can you change it to make it into some form of a fraction? If you can, then you have the answer that you need. All right? And I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to stop here. Number 7 you can think about. Again, is 5 and 10 11ths a whole number? Is it an integer? And for the part to find out if it's a rational number, you got to ask yourself, can you write 5 and 10 11ths as some ratio of 2 whole numbers? All right, can you change this into, can it be changed to a proper fraction? All right, enjoy your homework.